was a very big story that came out of the WNBA draft last night, and it wasn't Paige Bueckers going first overall as expected. It was actually about her UConn teammate. Kaitlyn Chen was a name I had on my WNBA draft list, and I was very excited to see that name called last night. You may remember last year when Kate Martin attended the WNBA draft with the only intention of watching her friend and teammate Caitlin Clark go first overall, and was surprised when her own name was called and she was drafted by the Las Vegas Aces. Not only was that a big moment, but she made it through training camp, cuts, and to the final roster. And then she not only had a pretty strong season in the W, but went on to play for Unrivaled. Kaitlyn Chen has the potential to have a similar story this season. She was drafted in the 3rd round as the 30th overall pick to the Golden State Valkyries, but she herself was only attending the draft with the intention of watching her good friend and teammate Paige Bueckers go first overall. And Kaitlyn Chen is one of those players that I think went underrated, but brings a lot of potential to the league. She's fresh off winning a national championship alongside Paige at UConn. Before this past year at UConn, which obviously ended up being an incredible run, she played 4 seasons at Princeton, and she played pretty well. Not only was she the team captain her senior year, she helped lead the team to 3 straight Ivy League titles. And in 2023, she was the Ivy League Player of the Year. After her career at Princeton, she transferred to UConn, where she ultimately won a national title this year. And now she's been drafted to the Golden State Valkyries. Now, depending on how much you know about the WNBA, you may not realize that getting drafted doesn't automatically mean you end up making the final roster and actually playing a season. Each team only has 12 roster spots, which means that players after being drafted head to training camp and try to prove that they deserve one of those final roster spots. But one of the things that's exciting about Kaitlyn potentially being at the Valkyries is the fact that they're a brand new franchise that is not only heavily invested in the team's success, but is already seeing an incredible interest when it comes to the fan base. The Valkyries have invested a ton of money into hiring great coaching staff, making sure that they have state-of-the-art facilities, and in pushing ticket sales. Because the Valkyries had over 22,000 season ticket deposits, and so far they've already sold over 10,000 season tickets, which is a record for the WNBA. And for Kaitlyn, something that's very exciting is that the Valkyries don't already have a starting lineup and a deep bench that she has to fight. The team and the coaching staff still have to figure out what the Valkyries look like. So if Kaitlyn shows up and really shows how good she is, as well as how well she can adapt to being a part of a team, she has a chance to make herself a very valuable part of that team. And it could end up being an incredibly beautiful narrative of showing up to support your friend and finding out that your own basketball career is nowhere near its end. Personally, I'm rooting for Kaitlyn to make that final roster. Often in the WNBA, we look at it and say that the first round draft picks are really the only ones who are kind of guaranteed a chance to make the roster. But as we saw with Kate Martin last year, we know that that's not true. And I'm hopeful that Kaitlyn adapts to this the same way she adapted to UConn, and we get to see her suit up next year for the Valkyries. I'm curious for you, which draft picks were your most underrated and most exciting, and which team you're rooting for next year.